Welcome to the next Randomised Gaming Guide to Destiny. I'm Random Gamer Riven and I'm going to be taking you through the mission The Last Array. Now first off, quickly going to explain Xander here, who is the bounty character. Now as soon as you reach level 4, he automatically gives you a choice of 3 bounties. You can take 1, 2 or 3 of them, or you can take none of them if you want, but you need to trigger at least one in order to start developing the bounty storyline. Now as you can see, I took all 3 there. Now that you have 10 slots, as I'm recording this after the recent update, it's well worth taking all 3. And the other reason you want to take all 3 is because they give you a huge amount of experience. In fact, doing bounties during the single player while you're leveling up will shoot you through the levels spectacularly. Just to show, at the minute I'm currently upgrading a Warlock character on my account, and basically I've got to nearly level 20. I'm currently at level 19, halfway to level 20. By doing bounties on top of just doing the standard story missions on hard, and I'm still only midway through the Venus campaign and I'm about to hit maximum level at 20, which also shows you how quick it is to get at 20 if you do the bounty route. And it's well worth doing because you also stand a chance of getting, every time you pass a bounty, once you get to level 20 I believe, you start getting a like 2% chance of getting the exotic bounty, where you can get to make a choice of one of 5 missions currently to get one of an exotic gun. Okay, so this mission is the Last Array, and this is the last story mission on Earth bar the strike. So this is probably one of the longest ones. It's also one of probably the hardest mission on Earth as well. I see them just highlighting kill 100 enemies without dying. Patrol missions you have to do when you're doing in patrol, and another one which I can't quite see there. And actually recording this video slightly differently because I've cut this video together, so I'm having to, usually I record the commentary from the raw footage, but because I've cut this one quite specifically, I'm having to record it from the edited version. So this is, as mentioned earlier, this is the Last Array. And straight off you go back through the area you were in the second mission of the game, The Dark Within, so you're going to have to run through there. Now there aren't too many ghosts on this mission, and there aren't any gold chests either. There is, however, one you can get in the back when you get to the Skywatch area, but it's quite tricky, or the top of the Skywatch area I should say, because there's a level 18 enemy in there. It's also quite tucked away.
Heading back through that Hive breeding ground. The Vanguard say they're spilling onto the surface now.
So we just make our way through here. Now you won't have Pacific Thralls and Hives running at you. You will have 1 or 2 in preset areas. You will have, when you get to the next floor, have a bit of Fallen and Hives fighting one another, which you can exploit to your advantage. If enemies are fighting, you can just let them fight it out if you don't feel like you want to tackle them head on. As you can see here, I'm more than strong enough and I feel like taking them all on head on. It's worth it, at least for the XP in the short term. Even once you get to level 20, when you don't get XP for killing the enemies, it's always worth killing them, because when you get to the higher levels you do have a chance of getting a legendary drop. Okay, it's incredibly rare you'll get a legendary engram drop from them, but you can still get them. And that legendary engram can of course even turn into an exotic if you're incredibly lucky with the crypt art. So as I showed there, that is not the way to approach this section. Really need to be slightly careful because I'm only level 4 at this point, and the enemies were quite a bit higher as I recall. Yeah, see, they're level 7, so I'm doing substantially reduced damage and they're doing substantially higher damage to me. I mean, doing a low level run is certainly more challenging, and it gives you a bit more experience of how to deal with the enemy. Certainly I found it very useful for when I was running later on Nightfalls and campaigns like and the weeklies, where you're having to be very evasive with the enemies because they are much more powerful. Nightfall itself introduces a whole lot of modifiers that include things like enhanced melee damage and enhanced damage like arc, etc., that really is incredibly dangerous. if you're not very careful, because it means most enemies can one-shot or two-shot you. So you can see here, this captain is probably the trickiest enemy here. Certainly at low levels you need to be a little bit evasive of him. You can't just run past. Some players do like to just dash through. I, at this stage, wanted to gain the experience. I also didn't feel confident that I'd be able to dash through without getting killed. Hence why you saw that a bit earlier when I was being a bit hasty, I was quickly gunned down. So once you come out into the clearing, this is Skywatch. There is a ghost I mentioned tucked away around the back there, but this is the first part of the objective and we have to collect dead ghosts. Now, easy enough. Basically, to your right area here, there are a lot of vandals and dregs. You want to kill them and they will drop ghosts. You keep collecting the ghosts till your ghost prompts you to go elsewhere. So, yeah, we're going to quickly have a shot for the ghost here. I can't remember how many times I tried this. Was it once or twice? So there, as you see, he's a Hallowed Knight and he's question mark. I think he's actually level 16 or level 18. But right now, as a level 4 character, as you see there, he's going to one-shot you. So you have to be really careful. But in that cubbyhole area is a ghost if you want to get him. Yeah, and here we go. I quickly ducked in and grabbed him. I think he got me just after I got the ghost. But as you see, awakened dead ghost. Show him off there and away I go. Again, as I explained earlier, I'll be doing a patrol video later on where I pick up all the ghosts. Although one thing I should point out is since the most recentest patch there were 2 glitch ghosts and they have reportedly been fixed according to a number of players, and I myself have confirmed that because the one that previously glitched on me was now fixed and collectible. So I'm just waiting for vandals to spawn in this area. It's a bit of an annoyance if you move into this area where there are other players, so sometimes they can already have killed all the fallen enemies. So as you see, killed them, they drop the triangles, dead ghost 1.
Dead. Keep hunting.
It's dead, keep hunting. There's a couple of them, you have to pick up about 4 or 5. I'm not entirely sure whether it's random or whether it's preset, but basically after about 4 or 5 usually, or your ghost I should say, will prompt you and say this one still holds the codes, and that's your prompt to then head up to the array area. But yeah, concentrate on the vandals themselves. I don't believe the dreg actually hold them. Oh, and that's not how to throw a blind grenade either.
Still holds the codes. Let's find
You can blind yourself as when you throw them. Now, as mentioned previously, this is spin metal and you do want to collect as much as possible. While you're not going to need it early on, you will need an awful lot of it later on for your legendary and exotic weapons. And you will be having to do farming runs, I can assure you, because doing these single missions will not net you anywhere near enough. Usually they require 8 to 16 of certain resources in order to upgrade, and getting 16 is a bit of a pain. Fortunately, I have actually found good areas to run all the areas to farm it at best, so I'll show them in later videos. Okay, so this is the actual the darkness zone for this section is surprisingly long, as this is one huge section. From here on inwards, you're in a darkness area. The first checkpoint is after you've actually assessed, once you've got to the array and had your droid analyse it. Until that point, this is just one long firefight, so you need to be really, really careful at this point. Now, yeah, first off, as you see there, as soon as you come into that clearing area, 2 vandals drop down, so you need to make sure that you're not surprised by them, because at level 4 they will kill me outright in pretty much 2 single hits. Now once you've cleared that first room, we now have another room where we have about 3 dregs, a couple of vandals and a few shanks as well. So again, I'm just checking the pickups there, and they weren't quite as good, although I did actually equip the sniper because it comes in handy at this section. So as soon as you come out here, watch that ship, it is going to shoot at you. It also drops down there a vandal and a couple of dregs. Now you've also be careful here because to your right is a captain and a few more vandals, and some of them have snipers. So you really want to remain cover at this point, especially if, like me, you're low level. So you can see there, dregs, vandals, the captain up the top there, they're all pointing, shooting. So you really need to be, if I was out in the open, I would go down incredibly swiftly. And of course with the sniper rifle, aim for a headshot as it does an awful lot of damage. I mean, again, it is worth mentioning, it's always worth aiming precision shots or headshot. Well, I've called them precision because not all enemies have weak areas on their heads. Certain enemies, the Vex for instance, have a crystal in their chest you have to shoot. And some enemies also don't even have weak points, which makes it slightly irritating. So if, like me, you're low level, you do need to be extra careful here. Now, you need to be careful once you've cleared this initial area, is as you begin to approach the actual array hangar bay area, you will have more enemies spawn and attack you. So you don't want to go running too far forward, else you're going to have a lot of extra enemies. There's a wave of shanks, a reinforcement wave of dregs and vandals, and finally there's a couple of stealth vandals before you hit the back guard, which are a few more vandals and a second captain. So you see the rocket launcher always handy for mass dealing with groups of enemies, and also dealing high damage to a particular enemy. So there's the shank reinforcements I just mentioned. And again, as you can see, basically, I'm being a bit cheeky here. I'm actually exploiting the AI area, which is, as you can see here, I'm standing near this area here because if the enemies come too close, I can just run into the building we were in previously, and then the enemies won't follow. And that's basically what you do if you're low level. You exploit that, and you'll see me do that a lot of this during the final array section, because in the array, if you stay up in this hangar area coming up, you will get taken apart by the Hive at low levels, because the Hive will chase you all the way into the hangar. They won't chase you into the secondary hangar around the side there, where you've originally come from, because their AI is not path to follow you that way. So again, take it nice and slow with these enemies. Quite a few of them, again, snipers or the homing shots they have, and it's a pain. You just need to take your time. But the blind grenade for the Titan is very handy for causing groups of enemies to stumble. Now, as I mentioned here, I'm about to get hit by about 3 stealth vandals. Again, these guys are a real pain at low level because they're taking absolute huge amounts of rounds to take down. As you can see here, I'm just going them, and basically I'm going to retreat to the safe area here because they are such a pain and they will follow you all the way in. So this area here, as you see, they're chasing, and then he stops there behind that wall. So basically that is the marker point. No enemy from this section here will follow you past that back wall. So as you can see there, as soon as I cross that line, he starts backing off because his AI, I assume it's pathfinding me, and I assume it's detection via area, and as soon as I cross that secondary door inside here, that it no longer can see me in the area, so it backs away. They do have a habit of hiding around the corner there, but it's basically a safe area. You can go back and recharge, heal up, and not have to worry about the enemies attacking you. and you can basically exploit that in all the Nightfall strikes as well. So here's the last set of enemies at the back before I can switch on the array. So I strap a rocket launcher into the group and then a grenade to stun them, and then just finish off. So that's the first
There's the control.
major part of this mission
I'll see if
cleared,
this code still
and
works.
as soon as we activate the droid, well, as soon as I activate my ghost, I should say. Droid, I think of Star Wars there. Does my ghost does his little thing. This actually marks as your second checkpoint in the mission from this section. So basically, if you die now, you'll reset at this point. Now I'm just gonna do a quick bit of video editing and swap to my second attempt at this mission, because the first attempt I got a tad too overambitious at the end, which I'll show you at the end, where I decided that it would be fun to try and super the last few enemies for a YouTube spectacular showcase. Unfortunately, it didn't quite go to plan. So you see the array's opening, and the first thing I'm doing is heading back into the opening area building we came out of. Because if you're in that area where the array is, you get absolutely swarmed, and at low levels you're going to struggle to deal with. The other thing is the Hive tomb ships, as you just saw there, do shoot you as they come in, and their shots also have a really nasty homing ability. They don't home as well as the enemy standard Vandal trooper shots, but they do have a general homing ability in your area, and they will come down and they will basically one-shot you because they're that powerful. So you can see they're all hiding around the corner there, but they won't go past the this door area here. And basically I'm going to exploit this for the majority of this section. The Thrall are probably the worst enemy because they're a fast attack enemy, and they do run right up to, because they're close combat only. So at range they're really easy to pick off, but when you're swarmed by a whole pack of them at short range, you need to get evasive. You either need to jump them, or you need something that can take them down quickly. Even shotguns necessarily aren't fast enough to deal with them at this point. I often find that you might take out one with a quick shot, and then you've got two others already on you. You can take out a second one, but the third one's going to get in a hit. In the story mode, this is actually our second encounter with the Wisdom we have to deal with too. Now you'll notice all wizards are orange shielded, which is solar shielded, so you can only zap away their shields quickly if you have a solar weapon. If you have a standard kinetic weapon or any of the other types, they'll take a bit longer to shoot down. Now, shields recharge, as I mentioned previously in the earlier videos, so you need to keep the pressure on. They basically have a recharge like your health bar, in that as long as the pressure is maintained on the enemy, the shield won't recharge, but as soon as you stop shooting them or give them a break, it'll start to recharge. So you do need to keep the pressure up on shielded enemies. Their health bar, however, doesn't recharge. But there's nothing more frustrating than you get an enemy to near death, you then can't get that final shot, and then he regens his shield, and then you're having to shoot through it again. So again, more tomb ships coming in. And again, I'm just taking cover in case anything make pot shots at me. So after the first wave, this one comes in with a load more acolytes. There aren't many Thrall this second wave. They basically come in three sets. Your first wave is primarily Thrall and Wizards. Your second wave is mainly acolytes and a couple of knights. Oh, there's one or two Thrall. And your third wave, the final wave, is sort of a mix of everything. And it has a major, which is the yellow barred knights. And basically they're the mage. The enemies you see, the yellow bars, are mages, and third wave has one in there. He's basically the final enemy, really. Once you take him down, that's pretty much it for this section. And there's just a few mobs to clean up. As you see there, I got an upgrade for the pulse rifle. I was hoping it was the damage increase, but it wasn't, so... And again, I'm just checking the items there, and I'm just gaining a glimmer from breaking the items that aren't as good. Generally, don't hoard green or blue armor early on. Basically, it's gonna be outdated very quickly, so there's no point in hoarding it. You might as well just break it down for materials. Just make sure you've equipped it the best stuff you currently have, and then just break down practically everything else. The only thing you might want is a couple of variants in guns for different situations. I'm using the pulse rifle I got from the golden chest at this point, and it's not a bad gun. It's not a fantastic gun. You don't see many players using pulse rifles. Generally, everyone's either scout rifles, hand cannons, or auto rifles, even though they have been nerfed. But primarily, pulse rifles, I think, need a bit of a buff. You can, however, get a few pulse rifles with an automatic firing, which makes them like an auto rifle, and those ones I've actually found to be pretty good. But generally, as a rule, most people don't seem to be using pulse rifles for either Crucible or single player. The only reason I was actually using this at the minute is basically to try and up my Grimoire score, I should say, on the website, because there is one for something like 10,000 kills with each weapon type, so that's auto rifles, hand cannons, scout rifles. So again, there's the enemy major I was talking about earlier. As you can see there, he is the Hive Knight. He's the last real major enemy in this section, although there are mobs. You have to clear out the remaining mob as well once you defeat him, which I failed to do spectacularly in my previous run. So again, with the majors, always aim for headshots. Basically, the major, you'll do less damage and they have a hell of a lot stronger health bar as well. So basically, they take a lot of time to chip away at. You're going to chip away at their health. Consider majors as basically sub-bosses in effect. You'll notice the mission says Hive, like there'll be like kill 10 Hive mages, or Ultras. Ultras are the special bosses, so Ultras are things like Septus Pine from the Earth Strike, and all the Strike bosses, and the particular story bosses. I mean, there aren't actually any Earth story bosses, but yeah, the Sword of Crota mission, where you have the Swarm Princes, and then the Shrine of Orthancs, where you have the champion at the end, whose name I can't quite remember. It's a big champion. And even at the end of the game, where you get the Vex final bosses. So once you've cleared out the enemies, it's just a simple case of returning to your goes in the terrestrial complex. And that is the end of the mission. But before we go, I have, however, included... I'm going to sign off in a second, but if you want to see me fail spectacularly, you'll notice, remember at the start of this mission I said I'd done an edit. Well, you can see me, basically, I'd cleared... The reason for that edit is basically I'd actually cleared all 3 waves of the final part of this mission, and I had the last mob after killing the Hive Major. Now, I decided I would do something a bit spectacular and try and showboat it by doing an Ultra at the end. Unfortunately, I killed almost all the enemies with the Ultra except the Thrall and another Acolyte. The Thrall killed me instantly after the Ultra, and it was a bit embarrassing. But thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more randomised gaming videos to Destiny. And I'll leave you with how not to complete a mission.